Can landlords now legally evict tenants? Well, last week I spotted an article from Yahoo Finance that reads, landlords can start the eviction process despite moratorium, government says. Well, in this video, I'm gonna go and break down exactly what's going on to the latest update when it comes to can landlords legally evict people now? What's happening to the CDC's memorandum and how's that all being processed? So I'm gonna give you guys the latest update and answer that question. Can landlords legally evict? And I'll break this down for both the tenants watching this as well as landlords watching this. I'll address both groups in this video. Hey everybody, this is Sam Kwok here, one of the Kwok brothers, and as you know, the coronavirus has taken a toll on a lot of renters, tenants, as well as landlords. Well, in response to the coronavirus damage to the economy as well as the landlord and renter relationship, many governments, including local, state, and federal, has put on bans on eviction as well as moratorium in varying degrees of enforcement. Well, last month we saw CDC, Center for Disease Control, put on their version of ban or temporary halt on evictions for non-payment of rent. And of course, this is due to the fact that many have lost their job, and right now the unemployment is staggering anywhere between 8 to 10%. And it just seems like this whole coronavirus thing is still out of control. But what is still in your control is for you to go and subscribe to our channel and smash the like button to help us out with their YouTube algorithm. If you guys want to see continuing updates as far as what's happening to the housing market, the economy, as well as real estate investing, definitely go and subscribe and check out some of the other videos if you're interested in those topics. So let's go right into the Yahoo Finance article. And of course, I want to thank Yahoo Finance for this article. And of course, this caught my attention mainly due to the headline that says landlords can now start the eviction process. Well, I knew about the CDC, Center for Disease Control's ban, a temporary halt on eviction, but this kind of took a step forward and said, you know what, the CDC memorandum doesn't really matter. Landlords can go and still start the eviction. So let's go and clear up that question. Can landlords actually start evicting? Well, the article seems to mention a memo released by CDC a couple days ago, and I'm gonna go and break down exactly what that says. We're gonna go straight to the source, and yes, we can read the article, and I'll put that down below so that you guys can go and be informed about it, but I wanna get to the source. I wanna get to the bottom as to what the government is actually saying about the eviction. Can landlords still evict? Can they not? I'm gonna go share my screen with you guys so you guys can kind of read this through your own, and I'll also leave this down below in the video description for you guys to go and read this on your own, but I wanna give you my interpretation. And as always, I'm not an attorney, I'm not an accountant, so please don't take this as legal or tax advice. I do recommend that you go and talk to an attorney or a legal professional for your own situation if you're dealing with any of the following. So I'm sharing my screen just to show you what I'm looking at. Of course, I'm not gonna break everything down, but I wanna get to that main point. Can landlords still evict? And if you're a landlord, I'm gonna talk about what you should do. And if you're a tenant, I'm gonna point to some resources that you do have and give you the latest information as to what is covered as far as protection from eviction. Now, of course, I'm a landlord, I'm also a tenant, so I'm kind of weighing on both perspectives. So right out of the get-go, there's the reference for the temporary halt in residential eviction. This is from CDC, so we can click on that and that will point to the actual order that halts or temporary halts on eviction. So right out of the gate, it says, what does the order do? Now this has to do with the CDC order once again. It temporarily halts residential evictions of covered person, and that's the key word, covered person. It doesn't say all tenants, it says covered person, and it does define what that means. So we're gonna start from the top here. The order temporarily halts residential evictions of covered persons for non-payment of rent during the September 4th, 2020 through December 31st, 2020. So we're kind of in the middle right now by the time that this video is published. So it's a good place to kind of give you guys an update, right? What does CDC mean by eviction? Well, this should be obvious, right? You're getting kicked out of your house for not paying your rent, but obviously CDC is going in to give you a description as far as what constitute as an eviction. So eviction means by action by a landlord, owner of a residential property, or other person with the legal right to pursue eviction or possessory action, basically taking over the possession of the property, to remove or cause the removal of a covered person from a residential property. So that's what that means. This order does not cover commercial property, or if you are leasing an office space like I am on top of my residential space, this only covers residential. Okay, I'm gonna kind of skip forward, get to page number 2. So let's go and talk about who is covered, right? We also covered this in my last video back in September, but I wanna give you guys a fresh reminder who is considered a covered person who has the protection from the CDC's order. So number one, the individual used best effort to obtain all available government assistance for rent or housing. So if you are a tenant watching this and you're wondering, okay, am I a covered person? So in order for you to be a covered person, you have to try using all resources out there, whether it's local government resource, state government resource, or even federal level government resource that are available to you before you can go in and seek protection from the CDC's order. Number two, the individual either expects to earn no more than $99,000 in annual income for calendar year 2020 or no more than $198,000 if filing a joint tax return. So this basically means that if you're making more than $99,000, okay, you're not covered as far as the covered person when it comes to the CDC order. So if you're making less than $99,000 as a single tax filer, then you also have met an additional qualifier to become a covered person. Or if you're, of course, making less than $198,000 if you are married or you're filing joint return. Number three, the individual is unable to pay the full rent or make full housing payment due to substantial loss of household income, loss of compensable hours of work or wages, a layoff, or extraordinary out-of-pocket medical expenses. So this is very interesting because it's not just saying, hey, because you lost your job, it also adds if you had any major medical expense, such as you had to go to the hospital because maybe you did have COVID and you didn't have insurance to cover the medical expense. Therefore, you have a financial hardship to where you're unable to make the rent payment. So, of course, all this, you need some sort of evidence, right? If you can get a memo from your employer, or if you have, obviously, a bill from your hospital, right? Those things do constitute as an evidence. So if you have any of those, collect them if you are a tenant, okay? Number four, the individual is using best efforts to make partial payments that are close to the full payment as the individual circumstances may permit, taking into account other non-discretionary expenses. So this basically says that you've tried communicating with your landlords, you've done your best as far as making any extra payments you can possibly in your circumstances. So if your rent is, let's say, $2,000 a month, maybe you try doing $1,000 here and $200 there, or $300 there. So it comes down to, are you able to show effort? Are you at least trying to be amicable with your landlord? Number five, eviction will likely render the individual homeless or force the individual move into and live in a close quarter in a new congregate or shared living setting. So this basically means that if an eviction is going to cause you to go to homeless, or it's going to cause you to move back with your family and there's like 20 people living in a house, 3-bedroom, right? That's not, health-wise, it's not safe. So if that's going to be the situation you run into because of an eviction, then obviously that adds another qualification to whether you're a covered person or not. So those are 5 main things as far as what qualifies as a covered person. So in a nutshell, this is basically saying, have you tried using all resources? Have you tried working things out with your landlords? And are you making enough money or not making enough money to be qualified as a covered person? That's basically what it comes down to as far as who is covered and who's not. Now, if you meet any or all qualification based on CDC's definition of covered person, well, what do? Well, you have to write up a declaration and sign it and send that to your landlord, basically saying, hey, listen, according to CDC, I'm a covered person. Here's why. You don't have to include evidence, or at least yet. You just need to simply sign a declaration form that says, hey, I am in trouble. I cannot make rent payments because I'm furloughed or I have huge medical expenses, and therefore I am considered a covered person. Now, CDC did provide a template. You guys can go and download this by yourself. It does say that do not return your completed form to CDC. That's to go and send it to your landlords if you are considered a covered person. A couple more things here down below. This is a 7-page guide, so obviously we're not going to go through the whole thing, but the next page says, has CDC provided a declaration form that eligible individuals can complete and submit to their landlord? Yes, we just covered this, so there it is. That's the link for you to go and do so. You don't have to use the CDC's form, by the way. You can go and create your own that basically says that you're in trouble for the following reasons. You got to sign it. Now, in the next few paragraphs, it says all declarations, regardless of form used, whether you use your own or CDC's, must be signed and must include a statement. Okay, this is key because if you don't include the statement, it's not a qualifying form. So you must include a statement that covered person understands that they could be liable for perjury for any false or misleading statements or omission in the declaration. So this basically means that if you lie or if you misrepresent that you are a covered person, or you didn't include any particular information in the declaration that would obviously make it more truthful, then you can get in trouble. Then this will certainly backfire on you if you're a tenant looking for a way out of trying to get free rent, and if you're not a covered person. So that's very important, and you got to put that in your declaration if you want to submit one, if you're seeking help. Next paragraph says, in addition, people are allowed to use a form translated to other languages. So this could be Spanish, Chinese, right, Russian, whatever language that you're comfortable with. It is possible to go and translate that form into another language if deemed possible. Next, seek protection or order. Each adult listed on the lease, rental agreement, or housing contract should complete and sign a declaration and provide it to the landlord where they live. So it could be you and your spouse, or if you have any children that are 18 or more that are living with you, they also have to complete a declaration and sign it, just like what I've mentioned earlier in this video. Another popular question that apparently CDC gets is, I've already been evicted. Does this order apply to me? So CDC's response to this is the effective date of CDC order is September 4th. That means that any eviction for non-payment of rent that may be initiated prior to September 4th, but have yet to be completed, will be subject to this order. So let's say your landlord files an eviction with your local county court on September 1st, and you technically didn't get evicted just yet. Well, in that case, you may still be protected under the CDC's memorandum and the order, as long as you sign it and fill out the declaration form and hand it to your landlord. So you still are protected. Now, if you are evicted, actually evicted, meaning your landlord took possession, there was a sheriff involved, and it was just nasty and messy situation, and that was before September 4th, unfortunately, you are not covered. Other than the fact, if your local government or your county government has instituted a eviction moratorium of their own, then of course that's a whole different story. But I'm talking about a CDC order. So this does not preclude or include any local, county, or state eviction moratorium. Most likely California, New York probably has their own eviction moratorium, but this is more so of a nationwide, federal level type of a deal. If I'm a covered person, do I still owe rent to my landlord? Yes, you still have to pay. So just because you've sign a declaration form and you submit it to the landlord, it does not give you a free ticket or, a get out of jail card, basically, of not paying rent. You still owe rent to your landlords. The order halts residential eviction only temporarily. Now, one thing I failed to mention, back in page 1, it says the order is not intended to terminate or suspend the operation of any state or local court. So courts can still conduct hearings as well as be in session for evictions, because the next sentence says, nor is it intended to prevent landlords from starting eviction proceedings, providing that the actual eviction of a covered person for non-payment of rent does not take place during the period of order. So what that basically means is that the landlord can still file an eviction and schedule a court date for an actual hearing. So it doesn't mean that the landlord can't still file an eviction and schedule a court date with their local county court. That could all still happen. But for an actual eviction, meaning you getting removed from the property, cannot be taken in place if you are a covered person during the period of the order, which is between September 4th, 2020 till December 31st, 2020. So the landlord can still proceed filing the eviction, but in terms of the question of can you actually get removed from the property is a different story. Now, why is it a different story? Well, because the landlord can still challenge the authenticity as well as the integrity of your declaration. The landlord may still say, you know what, I think my tenants are lying. I don't think this is a real situation. So the landlord may say, you know what, I need more evidence, I need more documentation. Now, the landlord can still challenge the declaration and its authenticity and integrity. Meaning, if the landlord believes that the tenant is lying or signed a false document misrepresenting their situation, the landlord can still challenge and request evidence. So the CDC's memo under the paragraph that says, what can a landlord do if a tenant has declared that they are a covered person under the CDC order, but the landlord does not believe the tenant actually qualifies? So it reads that the order does not preclude a landlord from challenging the truthfulness of a tenant's declaration in any state or municipal court. So a landlord can still challenge the truthfulness of the tenant's declaration. The protection of the order applies to the tenant until the court decides the issue, as long as the order remains in effect. So basically, the tenant and the landlord can still go to court. The landlord may challenge the truthfulness of declaration. The tenant now has to bring evidence saying that, yes, I do qualify as a covered person. Here's my medical bill. Here's a letter that says I'm furloughed or I'm temporarily laid off. Here's some evidence as to why if I get evicted, I'll be homeless. I don't have any other income or any savings to be able to fall back on. So basically, that's what it falls into. If the landlord doesn't believe that the tenant was being truthful, it ends up being a dispute in the court. So the grand answer to the question, can the landlords now evict tenants? The technical answer is yes, the landlords can still proceed with an eviction and can file with their local court if they choose to do so and proceed to a hearing with their local court. Now, of course, I addressed this just a moment ago, whether the integrity and the authenticity of the declaration, that comes down to how the judge rules it. But the landlord can still file an eviction and go through the legal proceeding if they want to. Now, according to the memo, tenants can still be evicted, actually being removed from the property if they do any of the following. And this, of course, might be obvious to some of you guys, but let me break it down for you guys for those who don't quite understand what this all means. So in the memo, it says, can I still be evicted for reasons other than not paying full rent? And the answer is yes, you may still be evicted for reasons other than not paying full rent or making a full housing payment. So a couple of the items that obviously would qualify you for an actual removal from your property or your home would be one, engaging in criminal activity. So no meth labs and no growing weed plants, okay? Threatening the health or safety of other residents. So that could be myriad of a lot of different things. You may decide to cut off a water pipe, or you may damage a furnace because you're angry at the landlord. Those obviously would put other people in risk. Number 3, damaging or posing an immediate and significant risk of damage to property. So yeah, don't think about damaging or kicking the door down or graffitiing, your rental property. Don't do that. That will get you kicked out. Number 4, violating any applicable building code, health ordinance, or similar regulation relating to health and safety. So there's obviously reasons for you to be actually evicted, removed from your property if you fall into any of those categories. So don't be a mean person, be nice, okay? Be amicable, right? Work it out in a civil way. Don't go out and start kicking down doors and putting holes in the wall because you're angry at the landlord. That will get you in more trouble, and that will probably not help your situation anyways. So bottom line, what do I have to say to my landlords and my tenants? Well, if you're a tenant, there's some resources down below. I'm going to leave that resource down below. So if you're struggling right now, if you've been furloughed or if you have not found any resource to be helped, and of course, we're still waiting on the stimulus package being passed by the House or the Senate. And there may be local and state resources that are available to you, which of course I can't cover all 50 states, but definitely go ahead and search them out on the internet because they're out there. There are advocate groups for tenants to help you with the resources. Now, if you are a landlord, I'm speaking from a landlord myself. I have several rental properties. I have many tenants. The number one thing about this is let's all be human and work things out as much as possible. Yes, we do need to be profitable. Yes, we need to have revenue. Yes, some of you guys are property managers. You have to be accountable to your owners. But the best thing we can do right now is adapt and pivot our business. The one thing that you can do, just like what I've been doing, is giving your tenants resources. Allow them to tap into some kind of local government or state government help if you know any. And I would do this for all of your tenants so that they can make the rent payment. Ultimately, it helps you at the end of the day if you help out your tenants. And of course, make the arrangements for partial payments or payment plans. Don't just go and click on the eviction button right away. Try to work with your tenants out and communicate any options that are available to them. And this is a perfect time for you to exercise your creativity when it comes to your business. So definitely go and talk to your tenants about finding a win-win solution, an amicable solution between you and your tenant. The biggest thing right now, or the biggest problem that we're facing as a collective landlord group, is public relation. Right now, a lot of people are angry at landlords. A lot of media groups and a lot of newspapers are writing bad things about the landlords, and it shouldn't be the case because there's a lot of nice landlords that I know, and a lot of us are actually nice and we want to work with people. So if you are a landlord watching this, choose wisely, right? Decide where you want to be. Do you want to be the mean and angry landlord that obviously the newspapers will write about? Or do you want to be the good guy or gal that actually saves the day? And yes, no newspaper will ever write about good landlords, sadly, but do your part because I do believe that if you give, you will receive. Now, for my tenants watching this, you guys heard it all. You guys got the answers that you guys were looking for. Again, try to work through your landlords as much as possible. Don't go off and throw off a rampage on your property and tear up holes. Not a good thing, just like what I mentioned. Right now is the greatest opportunity for both landlords and tenants can come together to show our strength that we can be united and we can be humans and we can be great together. So with that being said, I hope this video answers a lot of questions that you had, and I got resources for you down below where you can go and check them out, as well as subscribe to our channel, as well as smash the like button, help us out with our YouTube algorithm. We're really trying to get more of our videos out there as much as possible. We only do these videos to help you guys out and provide you guys insight when it matters. So with that being said, go and check out some of the other videos, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care, guys.